Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salam, rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Taher Khalid. I'd like to welcome to our program here on Sharda TV, Youth Issues. And today's program is a continuation of our Super Students program, where we're trying to help young people prepare themselves to be better students and to be contributors to our society. And of course, part of that contribution is through gaining knowledge, and that is knowledge of all kinds that are required for a society to function properly. And in many instances, it's a very interesting phenomena that people think that Islam separates itself from secular knowledge, that Islam is one thing and secular knowledge is something different. So this is false, and it never has been the case since its inception. And people who are promoters of this are promoting something that is actually in conflict and contrary to what Islam is. Islam promotes education of all kinds, but of course the educational guidelines are, of course, established. What is the criteria? Meaning that they must be within the guidelines of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah, or the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the criteria. But of course, higher education is very, very much respected in Islam and expected and needed. As of course, for society to progress, this is important. So we're discussing this program because this is a program that we found. It's tried and tested, which we use with students, and we're offering it to you out there. So tell your young people to tune in. This is a continuation from the last program. We were discussing 12 basic ideas where young people can get benefit and relationship to their studies. And we had done, I think, number 10. So we're going to do number 11 and 12. And 11 was testing your thinking. Test yourself before coming to class by summarizing the information. Part of that is to study when you're coming to class. What does that mean? It means that whenever if you're traveling on a bus or in a car, whatever it is, to school, if that is the case, that you should turn on the mode of education. Most of us, we didn't do that. Okay? Most of us didn't do that. When we were on the buses going to school, we were laughing and joking and singing school songs, or do whatever that we did. Very few people were focused at that time. And similarly, when we were returning home, we were just like happy to be getting out of school. So we were not thinking about these things. But if you think about it in terms of time management, if you summarize on your way to school, you know that, okay, for example, the first class in the morning is English. So you open up your book and just go over the subject matter that you know you're going to be covering in the class. One of the things is also to stay ahead of your class, at least by one chapter, so that when you come to class, you're already prepared. So always try to stay at least one chapter ahead of wherever the rest of the class is. And if you can do more than that, it's great. But when we say one chapter, we mean one chapter studied. When we mean studied, we mean that you've taken notes, that what you have done, you've highlighted special subjects or phrases or terms. You developed a particular vocabulary from whatever the subject matter may be in those particular paragraphs, that you understand the paragraph thoroughly. That's what we mean by studied. So that if you would to be tested that same day on that paragraph, that you would do well on that test. So that's what we mean by being ahead. It doesn't just mean just to read it. It means to read it with understanding and to analyze it. Very important to understand those things. So write, summarize, and write your own test questions. So this is number 11. When you are studying, summarize what you're reading and write it. So make some notes. And then also have another list with questions and answer those questions. Okay, some books that you have questions in them with answers, so forth and so on. But write your own questions. After you summarize this, what questions would you ask? And then answer those questions. And use those questions later on to review when you have to take examinations. Because the way that you phrased it may sometimes come out exactly the way that the teacher phrases it. If you look in the textbook, some of the questions in the textbook, the teachers may take them and put them on a test, and exactly as they are, or some of them may change them into kind of tricky questions. And something that you may put, you may find that the teacher does exactly as you do. So make your own questions and answers. And finally, number 12, check your listening skills. Evaluate yourself. Do you really understand what's going on in the classroom? Are you aware and conscious of the terms? Where are you now? Are you lost in a sauce, as an example? If you're lost in a sauce, then you need to find out and get yourself together. And you need to get a tutor. You need to get someone to help you come up to snuff. So don't become one of those people who's lost and then continue to be lost. If you find that you don't understand something, then make sure before that class is over or at the end of the class that you understand it. If you still, after the class, don't understand, ask the teacher, can you see him after class because you still don't get it? Or see a tutor. Make sure that you don't allow yourself to keep continuing not to understand what's going on until you find yourself failing in the subject. Failing, there's a methodology to failing, just like there's a methodology to being successful. So we're not talking about failing, we're talking about the methodology of success. If you follow the methodology of success, then failing will not be an issue. So we're paying attention, doing the things that we're doing. Failing is not an option. Okay, we're going to talk about do's and don'ts. We have 10 do's and 10 don'ts. And hopefully we'll be able to finish this. If not, we'll go into one more program. And in the last program, we're going to talk about taking tests. Many people don't know how to take tests. But now we're going to do do's and don'ts. Do's, take notes in class, textbooks, and other sources. Use your textbooks and other sources. Take notes from other sources. Ask your teachers in particular classes if there are other books, internet, or whatever information that's available that you can gain more information about your subject matter so you can compile almost like your own book on a subject. Stay ahead of the assignments. We mentioned this. Stay at least one chapter ahead of the class. And that means one complete chapter, meaning doing all the work to be ahead so that you understand what's going on. Number 3, get help before you get in trouble. If you're not understanding, make sure that you, first of all, try to sit with the teacher to gain understanding. If you still don't do it, you're not getting it, then ask the teacher or teacher what it is that you should do. Seek tutoring services and become actively and try to find out the principle, the root cause of why you're not understanding. Number 4, study, study, study. Remember, going to school generally is your job. This is your job as a young person. You have a window there for going to school. Some young people are actually working and going to school. But if you're working and going to school, then you know the importance of education. And hopefully education will help you to move up in the workforce. But generally young people are just going to school. So that is your job. So look at, how am I going to get paid? Getting paid is to get an A. That's getting paid. When you go to work, nobody says, well, I want to make $1 an hour when you can make $50 an hour. No one's going to say that. I'm sad, no problem. I'm satisfied $1 an hour. But somebody says, man, but you're very bright and intelligent. You can make $50 an hour. So the same thing. When you look at school, look at it like this. I want an A. Give me the $50 an hour. Think like this. Think from this terminology. We're just making in dollars and cents so people can comprehend it. Whatever terminology that you may use for money in your society, use that. Number 5, relate schoolwork to daily activities. Make scenarios. For example, whatever your subject may be, make a scenario out of it in relationship to what you're doing. For example, let's say you're doing mathematics. Depending on what level of mathematics you're on. Let's say this simple mathematics. Put yourself in a situation, let's say you're a store owner, you're a business owner, and you have customers coming in. You have to give them money. They're giving you money, and you have to give them change. So make scenarios. Similarly, if you want to take higher math, see yourself as an engineer or whoever it might be, how you're trying to work out some problems. Or some type of a scientist, you're trying to work out some problems that are very important for society. So how do I work out these equations? Put yourself in real life scenarios so this becomes a real thing for you. And it becomes important, not just something, oh, well, I hate this subject, I'm not going to do it. Number 6, think positive. Always be positive. Don't think, well, I can't get this, or I don't need this, or why do I have to take this subject, or this is a stupid subject. No, don't think like that. Think positive. That this, again, is something that I need to do to get to where I want to go. And if I don't do this, it becomes an obstacle for me. It's an obstacle for me from achieving what it is that I want to achieve in my life. So move forward. Think positive. Don't ever be negative, and don't let negative people influence you. Number 7, do extra work on the subject. Research, internet, library, etc. Whatever your subject matter may be, do extra work on it. Most students, they do extra work in areas that they like. But we should actually do extra work in areas that we don't like or that we're weak in. To the converse, if you're weak in an area, you need to do more work in it so that you become strong in it, don't you? So it's like if your muscles, if your leg muscles are weak, what do you have to do? You know, you may have a strong upper body. We said, but my legs are weak. So you have to do the work on your legs. So similarly, in relationship to our subject matter, if you're weak in an area, you should do more work